Sarah, thank you for taking a few minutes. Can you tell me a little bit about the company you work for and your role within the company, the scope, the size?
Sure. I work for Becton Dickinson, which is a global medical device company. I work specifically within the clinical systems architecture group, where I oversee, manage, and develop the strategy for our clinical systems, which are the clinical trial databases that store all of the clinical trial data that Becton Dickinson uses to get our products to market. I also focus and emphasize my time on integrating these systems and ensuring the data integrity across them. We use Veeva Vault Clinical, Veeva Vault Quality, Veeva Vault CDMS, and Veeva Vault ePro. Definitely having a fully integrated platform is central and essential to having not only a regulated clinical trial story, but also having single source of truth data. So that's a really important element in ensuring data integrity across your clinical trial. Having fully interoperable systems allows you to always be able to hone in on the single source of truth data. When you work in silos and systems are independent of one another, not talking to each other, you lose sight of the subject data all the way through to the payment related data. Being able to fully integrate study details all the way through subject recruitment and enrollment, all the way through to site contracts and payments, having all of that data integrated and interoperable, talking to one another, continually having updated reference records on a minute-by-minute basis, that's what tells the story of the clinical trial in an efficient and in real-time way. I think there's an emphasis on the automation piece of it. So when study teams are focused on the actual work of the clinical trial itself, as opposed to honing in on busy administration or manual practices, when you're able to emphasize automation using the system to drive compliance as opposed to manual intervention, that's what enables these study teams to focus on what really matters, which is getting products to market quicker and being able to expand the product market that BD brings to the medical device world. Administrative burden specifically is something that I'm sure a lot of study teams across the life sciences industry feels. Specifically at BD, I know that's something that we hear quite often within our clinical systems architecture team. And so that's something that when you're constantly clicking in 5 different systems, trying to enter the same information separately in different areas, that's something that we've tried to really hone in on and do a better job of, ensuring that there's integration, interoperability of that data across various systems where you can source back to where that original reference data resides, as opposed to having those study teams enter that data manually 5 times over. So when study teams have that time back of not needing to enter that data manually or having to manually track milestones or payment-related data, and the system is automating those records in an auditable and traceable format, that allows them to then focus their time on ensuring that they're following QMS regulations, new GPRs that may have been rolled out, ensuring that they're fully communicating with sites, making sure that during monitoring events, they're focusing on the investigator requirements and IFSEP components. Those are things that are more important as opposed to spending time in a system clicking around. Right? If you're using the cloud infrastructure to your benefit and you're leveraging the automation that it provides, that not only ensures that when you're able to replicate that in the future, you're using a solid baseline and you know you're using something that's worked in the past, but it's also saving you time and not having to continually build things from the ground up, whether that's Lambdas or cloud infrastructure or other things within the AWS platform. These are all things where when you're able to build on top of one another, whether you're developing stacks, things of that nature, being able to use and pull from what you've used in the past that you know that works, that's what allows you to really scale and build at scale. Being able to use things for automation and scaling purposes, that's what at the end of the day will enable these new products to get to market quicker, like this fall risk product. Having to build from the ground up, not only does it take a lot of time, but there's a lot of times where you're having to use manual intervention to figure out what works and what doesn't. When you have a leg up and you're using kind of proof of concept ideas that you've used in the past through these AWS infrastructure containers or stacks, things that you've used in the past, you already have a leg up on what you're building, and you're able to use that to scale and build what you need for the different products you're looking to bring to market, like this fall risk software. Any way that you can automate, integrate, and use source of truth data, I think will always enable regulation and compliance in the best possible way. Any way that you can reuse and kind of recycle anything that you've built in the past to remove that manual intervention step of starting from scratch, I think that's always the best way to go, especially if it works, right? If you're able to kind of build a foundation, use that foundation to build bigger and better things, that's the way that you scale systems, that's the way that you get products to market quicker, and that's the way that you end up building automation throughout your various platforms.